Hey everyone, welcome to the Growth Chat by Mailmodo. This is Mansi, your host for the evening and a marketer at Mailmodo. Today we are going to talk about email deliverability and the various factors that affect it and how we can fix it. And who better than two deliverability geeks who spend their day making sure that emails get delivered and building strategies around it. Sadiksha Pant from 𝐒𝐻𝐿𝐴ge and Surya Narayan Pal from Mailmodo are here with us today to share their frameworks and strategies to help you get your emails delivered. Welcome to the Growth Chat, Sadiksha and Surya. Over to you. Let's hear from you guys about yourself.
Sure. Hi everyone, I'm Sadiksha. I am currently working in 𝐒𝐻𝐿𝐴ge. I actually entered the deliverability field straight off during my BTech. During my internship I got into the email deliverability team and then I continued. So it's been 7 years of learning and growing and helping customers solve their deliverability issues. So yeah, over to you.
Thank you, first of all, for having me on board. Hi, I'm Surya. Uh, I've been in the industry for the last 6+ years, helping clients solve their deliverability problems and also fixing their email strategies, also helping them with better design and copies. Besides being an email geek, I'm also a cinephile and I like cricket. And here you go.
Awesome, awesome. Great introduction, guys. Thank you. Great. So we'll just move on. And so we have seen like a lot of people confuse delivery with deliverability. And there's so can you both share your definitions of deliverability and how it impacts revenue?
Sure. So when we say delivery, what it means that you send an email and the recipient server accepted your email. So it's basically when you send out to 100@gmail.com customers, it just, if 99 of those emails were accepted by the Gmail server, you have 99% delivery rates. But deliverability means how many of those got into your inbox. So when you create an email campaign, right, it has an objective. If you have a welcome campaign, you want to onboard your customer to the brand, you want to let them know what they have signed up into. If you send an abandoned cart campaign, you want to nudge the people who have added something on the cart to purchase. But if your emails go to your spam folder, if the customer isn't able to see that, so that doesn't fulfill the purpose of the campaign per se. Actually, I would say deliverability is very, very important because it's literally a measure of how many of the people got their email where they should get it in the first place, right? Surya.
Right, right. Absolutely agree with you, Sadaksha. And I always like to draw real life analogies. And as Mansi just mentioned, how deliverability depends on the ROI, right? So I always compare this to the case of a traveling salesman. So for a traveling salesman, the first challenge is to gain entry into the door, and then he or she is able to sell a product, right? Similarly, with emails, it's all about the first step towards conversion is getting the email in the inbox, right? And then comes the product. Then comes what kind of copy you have written. Then comes what kind of design you have created. With the best design, with the best copy, if you're not inboxing, your ROI will simply go for a toss. So it's very essential that you are following all the best practices of deliverability, which we are going to discuss in the course of this session. So yeah, ROI and deliverability are very closely interlinked, which a lot of marketers tend to neglect at times, but it is a very important aspect of uh, getting the optimum conversion rate from the emails that you're sending. And email being one of the highest ROI generating channels, it's essential that you are. It's literally like I'll again draw an analogy. It's similar to a cricket captain using his best bowler most economically, right? Uh, Using his best bowler in the right time so that he's able to save energy, he's able to take wickets. So yeah, deliverability and ROI are very closely interlinked.
And adding to that, I think I want to bust a myth saying, when we talk to marketers, they obviously it's not their field, so deliverability is a sore subject for them. Deliverability people can be seen sometimes as someone who tell them, no, you need 3 weeks of ramp up. No, you can't send this much. You can't blast your emails. But end of the day, for every deliverability person, our end goal is to find that sweet spot where you can reach out to the maximum number of customers optimally, right? Sure, we can blast your emails to everybody, but if more than half of them are getting it into spam folder, then your campaign isn't working. I mean, it's not working as good as it should be working, right? So that's why deliverability plays a very important role in terms of what you get out of your email program as a whole. So as a delivery person, I would say what I'm trying to achieve end of the day is that you can reach out to most number of your customers, if possible, all the people in your database, as many times as possible without impacting your reputation per se. See? So finding that optimal spot where you are neither over mailing the campaigns as well as neither under mailing is what essentially deliverability is all about.
Right, right. And while monitoring deliverability, you have to pretty much be a spam filter. You have to think like a spam
Yeah.
filter. You need to understand how spam filters work, right? You have to understand deliverability is never a problem with the ESP you are sending emails with. It's always a problem with the strategy you have incorporated. It's a problem with the ESP, obviously, if the infrastructure is not being maintained rightly, which is a very rare case. And later on, we are going to discuss the factors which deliverability depend on. But I would say, you have to, as a deliverability person, you have to always keep your eyes open for any red flag in email strategy or content.
Awesome. So, all right. So we have very well defined deliverability and obviously its impact on the revenue. Let's look into the factors, as you mentioned, Surya. Let's look into factors that affect deliverability.
Uh, if I have to say what affects deliverability, I really want to say everything does, right? But if I have to point out two, three major factors, then first I would say it would be the setup, right? Setup, and then how you collect your audience and how you are marrying your content with your cohorts. And those are the basic pillars upon which your email program is built upon. When we say authentication, it means, Mansi, can you share the screen? When we say authentication, it means the like how well your domain and IPs are authenticated, right? Like whether your IP and domain are eligible to send emails on your behalf. I mean, if you look at this example, you can go to the first slide. So you see email from 𝐤𝐻𝐿𝐴𝑔𝐻𝐿, and if you look at the mailed by and signed by here, it's alerts.moengage.io and moengage.io. And DKIM is signed by moengage.io. So it's basically your SPF, DKIM, your from domain, all of them are on the same domain. It looks pretty branded. And then there's your, if your link brand also said something like if your links start with something like link.moengage.io and your IP has RDNS going something like ptr.moengage.io, it looks like everything in your content, everything in your setup is branded. Now can you go to the second slide? Yeah, now if you look at this example, you see an email from brand.com and it did come to the inbox, but it came via moengage.io. So it's basically you leveraging the reputation, leveraging the authentications of moengage.io to go into to basically go out, right? Can you click on the next slide? Similar example, it's the same brand.com, but it's going via SendGrid.net. Here again, it's utilizing the authentications of your SendGrid.net. So while both of them are utilizing different domains, right, your reputation of your domain is not upon brand.com. It's basically leveraging the reputation of a third party. right? 𝐭𝐮𝐲.io or SendGrid.net. So depending upon how many other brands are using the SendGrid.net or 𝐭𝐮𝐲.io and how it's performing, your email campaign uh, will get affected. It might either be good if you have all the good senders in there, or it might be bad if somebody else screws up, right? Can you go to the next slide? Now, when we talk about DMARC, or DMARC is like a very simple solution to prevent your email address from getting spoofed. Like here you can see that brand.com doesn't have any DMARC in place. Can you go to next slide? Here, while 𝐿engage.io has a DMARC, which has policy which says P equals to reject, right? Which means if your DMARC doesn't pass, if your emails fail basic authentications, then your emails will get rejected. Can you go to next slide, please? Yeah. So instead of emails going, via something else, like something else domain.com, like we saw brand.com via 𝐿engage.io or SendGrid.net, we'd get an error message. So if a spammer is trying to use your domain to send on spam emails, they won't be able to send it. That's why authentication is very, very important. It's very imperative that you have proper authentication set up for all your domains and subdomains, and you have strict DMARC in place so that spammers can't spoof your domain and can't impersonate you. And apart from authentications, how you collect your you can stop sharing. It's very important how you collect your audiences, right? If your audience collection mechanism is flawed from the very beginning, for example, if you are getting audiences from a third party or by an affiliate brand, or if your users haven't explicitly signed up for your brand, then it means they are not interested on the brand, or they may not even have heard of the brand. As such, no matter how good a content you send to them, they are not going to engage positively with you. So if your basic authentication is flawed, if your basic authentication is flawed, then others can impersonate you, and uh, how your reputation might not even be built upon what you are doing. It might be affected by what somebody else is doing. At the same time, if your audience collection methods aren't secure, if they aren't good enough, then essentially you are not sending your emails to the right person who might be interested in what you have to say. As such, it's not going to work very well no matter how good your content is. Similarly, when I say marrying the content with the cohorts, it means, right, as a brand, uh, you might not have just one product that you want to sell, right? You may have different options, different features, or different products. So as such, you have to figure out which cohort of people, like which group of people wants exactly what, right? And if you send them exactly what they're looking for, then the possibility of their engagement as well as their conversion is quite high. So yeah, if I have to point out just three, then I'd say how you authenticate, like how you set up your infrastructure, how you collect your list, as well as how well you marry your content with the cohorts is very essential. So yeah, to you.
Thank you, Sadaksha. And I'm pretty much on the same page with what you just said. When I assess brands, I always follow a model which I call the 3R model: the right database, the right infrastructure, and the right content. Okay, so these three, as you mentioned, are very imperative to follow. So when it comes to right database, as you just mentioned, the database should be collected in a very sophisticated way. You should not purchase databases, and many marketeers are of the opinion that you can purchase database and just run the database through any cleansing tool, but that doesn't filter out spam traps. That doesn't filter out users who don't have the required affinity to your brand. Um, then comes the right infrastructure, as you mentioned. Authentication is key, and also maintaining your IPs, ensuring your IPs are not hitting a lot of spam traps, monitoring your IPs, ensuring they're not listed in prominent DNSBs like Spam House and Spam Cop is very essential for an ESP to follow. which we constantly do at Mailmodo. The third thing is the content reputation. Content reputation is very important because all the spam filters are AIML based. They learn and evolve. So if you have a phone number in the footer and you have sent a lot of emails with that phone number in the footer to folks who are not interested, and they have reported, simply open the emails and reported to spam. In that case, the phone number gets cached. Similarly, there are like best practices to follow in terms of content, like not having bitly links, which many marketers uh, are not aware of. I have encountered with a lot of brands using bitly links in the content, which results in the emails landing in spam for Gmail and many other ISPs. Also, map tags are a strict no for Gmail spam filters. Sometimes alt and title tags also I recommend not to have. That's mainly because marketeers come from the lens of SEO. They think if they can boost uh, their SEO rankings with alt tags, they should play a similar game with emails. But it doesn't work like that because mainly there are a lot of affiliate marketeers in the industry, and sometimes it so happens that if you are assigning alt equal to Facebook to a Facebook icon, also an affiliate marketer is doing the same. And as a result, what happens is alt equal to Facebook gets cached negatively. Affiliate marketing is sending emails to folks who have not subscribed to your database. They end up reporting to spam, and your alt tags get cached. So it's best not to have alt tags and title tags. And in the beginning, as I mentioned, right, we need to understand how spam filters work. Spam filters basically assign a certain score to your entire email, and if the score is beyond a certain threshold, the email ends up landing in inbox. If the score is below the threshold, the email lands in spam. So you have to ensure that the overall score is more. So if because of all tags your score is coming down, you should get rid of all tags. If because of bitly links your score is coming down, you need to get rid of the bitly links. Basically, your content should not have incurred a lot of spam complaints in the past. If it has, and you are giving a fresh start to your email program, go for a different layout altogether. Change the layout completely. For example, if you had a zigzag layout before, go for an inverted pyramid layout, and that will solve your problem. But also make sure you're not committing the same mistake as before. You're targeting the right user with the right content at the right time. And when it comes to engagement, I always say marry the platform activity with email activity. Don't just target email active users, because maybe they're opening the emails today, but you never know when they will open the email and report to spam. For that, you need to essentially track the brand affinity each and every user has. So if you ask me, for any brand, there would be four types of cohorts. One cohort would be people who are active on email, active on the platform. Second cohort would be people who are active on email but are not active on the platform. Third cohort would be people who are not active on emails, but they're very active on the platform. And the fourth cohort is on the verge of churn users who are not active on email, active on platform. So you need to treat each and every cohort differently. You can't treat them the same way. So for cohort one, which is email active, platform active, I would recommend you send your from the D2C space, right? From the D2C lens, you send your site-wide offers to them. You can send your regular newsletters to them. You can pretty much follow your campaign calendar with them. Email active, platform inactive. If you're sending some offers, encourage them to come to the platform by giving a slightly different offer. If you're throwing in a 20% discount to platform active, email active, throw in a 25% discount maybe. When it comes to email inactive, platform active, use your other channels to encourage them to open their emails. So I know of this brand which converted users to the first cohort, which is email active, platform active, by sending push notifications and intimating them that, look, we have sent you a voucher specialized for you to your inbox. Open your email to avail of the offer. And the last cohort, which is email inactive, platform inactive, engage with them the least frequently. And when you're sending them campaigns, ensure that you're sending them BOGO offers. you have thrown a 20% discount to the first cohort, 25 to the second, maybe throw in a 60% off when you're sending this one-off campaign once a month to these users to encourage them to, come back to the platform. So this is a strategy I follow, and and this is a strategy which, if any of you follows, will never go wrong. I assure you.
Yeah, I agree with you. And strategy overall is fine. And then you have to test and you have to optimize and you have to see when you say email active and platform active, you have to add the, X number of times and X number of days there. So that is
Yeah,
going to vary for each user. And yeah, so
the
that's what you have to
recency
test and
frequency.
optimize. Yeah, recency frequency. You can have the
Absolutely.
recency frequency and see, how many customers are your loyal customers, how many of them are about to sleep, about to churn, about to
Absolutely.
hibernate and all that. And the other
A little
advantage
off
of
topic. Sorry, Sadaksha.
yeah, I was going to say the other advantage of using the platform data is, with the Apple privacy relay, now the open metrics aren't as accurate as they used to be. It not saying opens aren't reliable anymore. They're just not as reliable as they used to be. They're still open, and clicks are still something you still need to monitor. But you also have to put in other metrics in there. Right? You have to look into other metrics to figure out which ones are active and which ones are inactive. So that's where your platform the platform active and platform interaction really comes into the picture. I mean, personally
Absolutely.
speaking, when Apple Private Relay came to the picture, when I figured out how we change things, I realized for most of the brands, I was already using the platform active, events and all. And since we didn't have to make all those brands didn't have to make all that many changes to not lose out on the active customers because the opens weren't coming through, right? So when such changes come into picture, instead of trying to find ways around it, we should just implement that as a best practice and follow it. Such one key thing about deliverability is you need to be constantly evolving. You need to constantly find out things which would which is going to be helpful in the future. Yeah, so you're saying something,
Agreed.
Surya?
Absolutely. So I was just going to go a little off topic, and it's unavoidable when two email geeks talk to go a little off topic. So what I was asking you, Sadaksha, was what's your take on primary inboxing? In India, at least, like a lot of marketers think primary inboxing is the only way to get revenue. It's uh, it's mainly because in India people don't follow the concept of zero inbox. In the US, people follow zero inbox, wherein they check all their emails, delete the unnecessary ones, and their mailbox is only filled with necessary emails. So they end up checking promotions as well. The tendency to check promotions is much higher in the US as compared to India. In India, you can grab eyeballs only with primary inboxing. So, what's your take on that?
I would say primary inboxing is great. Obviously, if your promotions get into primary folder, it's obviously a boost, right? But there's two
Right,
ways to it. One is getting there because your users actually think that what you are sending, like the promotions that they're sending, are worth being in the primary.
right,
That happens when you don't put an extra effort into forcing emails into primary. You just follow your best practices. You send out to the right audience. Your frequency is
right,
tailored for your active, less active, inactive users, for different cohorts. And your content is what your users are looking for. So if you do everything right, then your emails might still go to primary. I mean, I have lots of customers whose emails are going completely to primary in when they are
right,
sending 100% promotional content, right? But that didn't happen because they were, that wasn't their end goal. They were just
right,
following best practices, and
right,
slowly on their own, Gmail started placing those emails into primary because that's how the users reacted. And when that
right,
happened, that didn't affect their reputation. Like they didn't get very inflated complaints. Their unsubscribes were still what they used to be. So they got
right,
there, getting there by following best practices on a very organic way. That's great. That means you are doing
right,
something absolutely right. But
right,
following tricks and gimmicks to uh, push it
right,
there, that I would very strongly discourage discourage that.
Right. I always tell my marketers that primary inboxing is a hack. It's not a
Yeah,
fix,
it's a hack.
right?
Yeah.
It's a hack. And for all those people who want their emails to land in primary, one of the things which helps is having a lot of marketing automation campaigns, having a lot of transactional campaigns flowing from your domain, because Gmail looks at the average open rate of your domain name. And if you have very high generating open rate campaigns, then while that's not the only way to inbox in primary, it's one of the ways to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry for the
Oh,
diversion.
that's fine.
Mansi, you can continue.
Awesome. Thank you guys. So I'll just nudge the audience here to just put in the questions in the comment section in the chat box, just for us to take it up. Ask your questions about deliverability and anything about email marketing. We'll be happy to take it up towards the end of the chat or during the chat. Cool. So with this vast experience that you guys have, and like you've had helped so many companies fix their deliverability issues, can you share your frameworks and best practices for identifying and debugging deliverability problems?
Sure. When I debug delivery problems, the first thing I always look for is the authentications. That's check if your all authentications are fine, and that means your SPF, TKIM, DMARC, your IP, your link branding domain, your just basically all the authentications as well as your infrastructure. Like, see if any of process is broken somewhere, right? Sometimes your emails might go to spam because a process broke somewhere, not necessarily your fault, but again, an issue. And at the same time, sometimes suppose you're using HTTP links, but the website implemented HTTPS. Now your link should be HTTPS. If you didn't do it at the same time, then your campaigns might start to get affected because now your links aren't working. So first things first, it would be to check the authentications. Check if the setup is completely right. And after that, the other thing I would check is for the volume patterns. See if there has been any spikes or something like. Mansi, could you share the screen? Like, if you look at this, see terrible. This is a terrible volume pattern. I mean, there was a sudden spike, right? And if you go to the next slide, it's see these are some examples of your really bad volume patterns. And next slide, please. So if you have
Right.
patterns like this, your reputation is going to be like that. It's going to be, on the bad or the low level, and it's not going to inbox. It's not going to, no matter what high volume you send, it might probably get half of them might get blocked, and the rest half might go to spam. Can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, and similarly, see, the spikes aren't really, ISPs don't take like bad patterns and volume spikes kindly. Your reputation is going to get affected. So that would be something, that would be one of the foremost things I would look at. Sorry, go ahead.
Right. Absolutely.
Awesome.
And besides the volume spikes, just coming back to the volume spikes, why volume spikes are looked at suspiciously by spam filters? It's just because of the pure definition of spam, right? Definition of spam is unwanted emails sent in bulk. So spam filters back in those days would be looking out for anybody sending emails in bulk to users who are not subscribed. So I'll give you a classic example, which I tend to give very frequently. So if you have a neighbor who has a car and he wants to sell the car, right? And he sees you have a vacant parking spot. He sends you an email one on one saying, "Hey, I want to sell my car." So he has identified an opportunity. He has not sent an email to the entire neighborhood. He has seen that you have a vacant parking spot. That's why he wants to sell it to you. So it makes sense over there. It's not spam. But if he sent it to the entire neighborhood, it would be deemed as spam. So what Sadaksha said is very important. Don't have a tremendous spike in volumes. I generally recommend marketers not to go beyond 1.5x of what they have sent in the last 30 days. If you haven't sent anything in the last 30 days, you might have to start from scratch. Okay, and then comes the database part. Whenever your deliverability goes down, whenever your reputation goes down, always look at what changed, right? Did I target an inactive segment? Did I target users who have the potential to report to spam? Are my spam rates high? I will go to Google Postmaster and check my spam rates. That's very important. As I mentioned, one of the key factors deliverability depends on is what kind of segmentation you're incorporating in your email strategy. So, for example, if you are a job industry, right? Job industry, I wouldn't recommend send to the past clickers and openers to get the maximum engagement. You would be sending campaigns to the recent subscribers because they have the maximum affinity. They have just signed up and they're looking for a job. Maybe people who signed up 30 days ago, they have already got a job. But when it comes to the fashion industry, you can pretty much target your openers and clickers because over there, the tendency to purchase again, the tendency to repeatedly transact is very high. Okay, so database is very, very important. Always monitor what kind of change took place in terms of database targeting. Then comes content. Did you change the content? Did you introduce any blacklisted URLs? Did you use bit.ly links? Bit.ly links are a strict no. I'm reiterating
Strictly.
again. Yeah. Did you use map tags, right? And then monitor the infra reputation. Is your IP being shared by other brands, and those other brands are spamming? That's why the IP reputation went down, and that's why your domain reputation took a hit, right? Did you, as Sadaksha already mentioned, is there any DNS failure from the client side? Because DNS failures cause change in authentication protocols. Suddenly, you will be not signing DKIM on your sender domain, and as a result, boom, all the emails start landing in spam. Postmaster data is very important. Google Postmaster gives you delivery errors. Delivery errors also occur when you are sending emails at a rate at which the recipient can't accept. So typically, Yahoo spam filters throw an error when you open more than 20 SMTP connections with the recipient MX of Yahoo. So all these factors need to be looked at very closely.
Yeah. And
Yeah, Sadaksha. So,
I was gonna say, like Surya said, your segmentation is really important. And the one other thing that you need to look at when you look into segmentation is if you have, like, how many, if there has been any unusual activity in the signups, like if you are not a confirmed opt-in or double opt-in, so, customers, then there might be some bot signing in into your, uh, into your brand or into your database. So in that, so as such, look into your welcome pattern. In that, in that sense, welcome campaigns are really really important, not just to onboard the customers, but they have, it has some other additional benefits as well. For example, if you have a welcome campaign in place, you are, from the get-go, you are basically suppressing all the invalid users. You're identifying and
right.
suppressing the invalid users, right? That's, so as such, you won't be having any invalid users in your database if you have, or you won't have it in, a large quantity if you have a welcome campaign going on. At the same time,
Absolutely.
you can also monitor the patterns of your welcome campaign to see if there has been any suspicious sign up activity on the website. Like if you are running some program which is, for which the expected goal is to get better signups, get better, get more signups, then yeah, obviously you would expect a increase in your welcome volume. But on a normal day, it is expected to follow a regular pattern, right? So it's as if there has been a irregular pattern. That's also something we should, flag as suspicious and identify it. That can also be, it could also be leading, bots or spam traps into your system, and that could also be something which can cause your issue. And
Absolutely.
at the same time, the other thing ISPs look into is history, the performance history. For example, if you have a sketchy history going back, several months, then even a very small problem can get you into, into a drop in reputation, and you can start going to spam. But then if you have a good history going back a long time, say you have a year worth or a 2 years worth or more of a good sending history, good engagement patterns, stable reputation, everything. If you have been doing everything right for the past 2 years, then maybe one small mistake, one small error that might get excused at this on, or when you, or even if you have an issue, when you create a remediation request, you can tell them, hey, this was a mistake, this is what happened, so could you please help us remediate, right? So those requests will get accepted. I would say never ever lie in a support ticket, right? If you are raising a support ticket to Microsoft, and if you tell them, if you lie to them, I mean, they have your history better than you. There's no point lying to them, right? You just, so as its history is really important. Like if you have a good history, then some small errors can get excused. But if you have a sketchy history, then that you are going to get flagged in very minor errors also.
Right, absolutely. I agree with you. And with Microsoft, on a side note, even when you're writing the truth, sometimes they don't whitelist your IP. So forget lying. If you lie, you're doomed. And Sadakshia is absolutely bang on. When you have a sketchy history, one bad day can drown you. And coming back to welcome series, right? What Sadakshia was saying, it's the most organic way of filtering out bounces. Don't go in for data cleansing tools. Don't buy data cleansing tools. You're wasting your money. Just introduce a welcome series and everything will be set. And in the US, people use welcome series not only to build brand affinity, not only to filter out bounces, but also they act as a preference center. Welcome series sets the tone of email marketing for any user. So you ask the user how many times the user wants to receive the email, what kind of content, if you're a newsletter website, what kind of content the user is interested in out of all the topics that you have. And at Mailmodo, you can pretty much insert this within a widget through a drag and drop editor within the email itself, and you can collect user preferences in a very sophisticated fashion.
Adding to that, right, and one another thing that is, if you have subscribed to any inbox placement measuring tools like eData Source or Return Path, right? So you should also monitor your inbox placement rate. Sometimes the changes in open metrics or others might not be that visible, but if you see inbox placement getting getting dropped, or if you see it's been slightly but slowly, if it's dropping in a few days, then that might be something you should consider and try to fix before it hits your reputation. So for the gradual decreases and all, you should also monitor your inbox placement and
Sadaksha, for the
postmaster data.
marketers over here, can you name a few such tools which help us track unboxing?
Sure, it's eData Source and Return Path. Those two are
Right,
bang on.
right,
That
right,
though,
absolutely.
having said that, inbox placement data is very essential while monitoring, but you shouldn't take inbox placement data as a, it's not the absolute truth, because it's basically giving you results based on certain number of panel users or seed users. So you should
It's
also,
extrapolated data.
yeah, so it's a extrapolated data based on a small size of sample users. So when you're looking at inbox placement data, also look into how big your sample size is, and also pair it with your performance metrics that you see, right? So then one day you'll get a better idea of how you're performing. And at the same time, postmaster data is just the opposite of this one, because postmaster, your Gmail postmaster data is basically exact what Gmail is telling you, right? It's not, postmaster data is basically how Gmail sees you performing. It's not like they have, from the get-go, they would award you a score, and based on your performance they'll lower, or this one, or they'll increase or lower your score. It's basically they give you a score based on how you perform. So it's an indication of your reputation is basically an indication of how well you are performing. As its reputation data is really important.
Right. So inboxing data is more like going to a doctor, and postmaster data is the taking a
Looking at the
test
scan
recommended.
results.
Yeah, the scan results recommended by
Yeah.
the doctor is how I would put it. All
So
right.
I guess if we have to sum it up, then I would say check for your authentication results. Check if there has been any change in your setup, like if you have suddenly moved from shared setup to a dedicated setup or vice versa. And check if there has been any change in IPs, or basically all the setup and authentications. Look for your volume spikes. Look for your unusual target segments. look for unusual signups, look for the reputation data and your inbox placement data, check your performance history, going back 15 days, and weekly performance and monthly performance history going back 6 or so months. Check your inbox placement data, check your postmaster data, and check your HTML content. See if you have made some changes in HTML content, which was something unusual that you haven't been doing, and that might have triggered a spam filter, right? So just these are the things you should look for.
Right. Absolutely.
Thanks for summing it up, Satiksha. And yeah, so let's just take up this question that has come up from Navodit. It's about open rates. Can you, any of you, take it up?
So, firstly, as mentioned by Sadaksha, the steps that you should follow. Right? Look at your postmaster. Look at your postmaster and see if there has been a dip in reputation. If there has been a dip in reputation, analyze the root cause. Why the dip in reputation? Have you stopped signing authentication? Have you changed the content? uh, did your promo emails affect your transactional emails because you send the emails to some inactive database, right? So reputation is a key, and if your reputation hasn't changed, check the tab placement. Check if your emails, test all the emails, the transactional emails, all the use cases, um, and also the promo emails. See where the earlier campaigns were landing and where the current campaigns are landing. Sadakshay, if you want to add on to that.
Yeah, so I would say first things first. I would say put your transactional emails in a separate domain and IP, and separate out your promotional emails. Everything non-transactional in a separate setup altogether. Right, your transactional emails are very important to maintain a trust with your customer, right? Between the customer and brand. Like if I purchase something, I'm going to want to see the receipt. Like my payment has been successful, the purchase history is if it's been shipped, or at the same time, if you are banking vertical, obviously I'm expecting a statement. So not sending those very essential emails that can lead to some suspicion from the customer end on, like it could lead to some trust issues. That's it, affecting your put your transactional email completely into a separate domain, and make sure it's properly set up and you are doing it right, and don't promote your promotional content in your transactional emails, right? That's basically some sort of cheat or a hack. That's not what I want to see. If I want a payment receipt, I'm not going to want to see product recommendations in my payment receipt. You can send a separate email, like you could have a flow campaign, which is basically a post purchase, right? A post purchase flow campaign, where after X number of days or X number of days after my purchase, you send me similar recommendations. Like people who bought this product also bought this. See if you're interested, something like that. Right? You could have an entire post purchase flow campaign, but I'm definitely not going to want to see your recommendations on my receipt. So first
Right.
thing is separate out your transactional and non-transactional emails completely. As such, your non-transactional emails don't impact your transactional ones. And again, like Surya said, if you have started to see a decline, or if you see any issues, the first thing is to debug it and find out where the issues came from and at
Right.
what point did it started. If you see a slow decline, then you have to figure out at what point did they start to decline, right? If they started to gradually decline over the past 6 months, right? You went from 10 to 9.8 to 9.5 to 9.2, and so on, right? So that is also a decline. It might not be visible in the first look,
Right.
but if you look into your weekly and monthly data, then you'll be able to see the trends. That's why I said history is very important. Check your engagement
Right.
history and see what's going on, and
Right.
then pair it with your reputation data. See if on those days how the reputation trended and how your inbox placement trended, and just figure out what you did wrong, and then fix it from there.
Right.
And I would
Right.
say one basic thing that works for everybody is if you start to see decline, then for the next 7 days, just send to your most active users and lower your send frequency.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Sadaksha, like this is a very real world scenario, what you're talking about. Ideal world scenario, I always assume the promotional emails are sent to good databases. In that case, if your database is really clean, because I've seen brands, enterprise brands like Nike and Myntra, like they send emails. They use the same domain to send transactional emails and same domain to send promotional emails. Over there, why it is not a bad practice is because they maintain a solid email marketing strategy. They never send only to inactive users. There are two sides to the coin. So the other side is you can piggyback on your transactional email open rates and sustain the reputation of your domain name. But that is only if you're targeting the best users in the mailing list. If you're not confident about your database, which is 99.99% of the cases, do as what Sadaksha just mentioned. Separate out the two pipes. Transactional will be one pipe, and promotional will be another pipe.
I would say there's a flip side to it, right? When you pair your good customers with your transactional setup, what do you do about your less active or inactive users? They're not going to sustain a reputation entirely by themselves. So that's just there's also a flip side to it. I would
Right.
say,
Absolutely.
yeah. So I would say for the long run, I mean, for the short term, it obviously works. Like if you suddenly send some promotional campaigns through your transactional setup, it's obviously going to get good placement and it's obviously going to get better opens. But that's
Right.
just short term, right? That's I mean, if you send me a transactional promotional email from my from your transactional setup, I might get it in the primary folder. But that's not where I want it. That's not where I have been seeing it for the past whatever so months. So I might not appreciate it. I might unsubscribe it, report it as spam, or move it back to promotion, which has even larger impact in your tab placement.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
as such, I would say following best practice is always the key. Like as long as you follow
Correct.
best practice, you can really sustain it. That's sustainable. Hacks are never
Right.
sustainable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Agreed, Sadaksha. Uh, Moving on, uh, Mansi.
I think we can take up this follow up question from Navodit if you think we can answer this one here. So he's asking what are the flows if you've started to see a dip in the open rates of the email flows.
Okay, I would say look into your sending frequency. Like try moving about your after like in your flow campaigns. Try moving about the days. Like if you are sending a email like 3 hours after certain event, try moving the hours and see how it performs, and put a
Another
frequency cap to it.
Right. Another very key aspect is monitor if you have introduced any other nudge. For example,
Exactly.
I was assisting a brand. They were sending abandoned cart emails within 30 minutes, and they suddenly went live with WhatsApp. And within 15 minutes of abandoning the cart, they started sending WhatsApp nudges. So all the conversions shifted to WhatsApp. So that is very important. And secondly, also again monitor your domain reputation. See if you have had any dip over there due to maybe you are sending promotional campaigns from the same domain name. So monitor that.
Cool. I think we can take up the other questions that have come up later. Once let's finish up our set of questions that we've had for you. Let's come to our last point, which is where we can talk about the evolution of spam filters. Surya and Sadhya.
Absolutely. So, I'll tell you guys a very interesting story. So, in the early 2000s, when spam originated, spam filters were simply rule based. That's mainly because spam originated from a few set of servers, and the anti spam guys knew about those servers. So, spam would be um, any email sent from those particular ranges of IPs. So, they would simply make a rule in the spam filter that if the IP belongs to this range, block the email. And then anti-spam versus spam has always been a cat and mouse game, right? So spammers started thinking, what if I start relaying my emails through some remote server? So if someone from Nigeria was spamming, they would route the email through the UK to your recipient MX. and the email would be accepted because the spam filter read the sender IP as IPs belonging to UK, right? So that's when anti-spam guys sat down together and they decided, let's make a protocol called the Sender Policy Framework. That's how you have SPF today. It basically authenticates the sender server from which the email is being sent. From then to now, it then transitioned to Bayesian filter algorithms, and now we have AIML algorithms, which is beautiful. The way Gmail works, it's next level of AI and ML, right? They read thousands, billions of emails per day, and they are able to decide if the user is supposed to receive it in inbox or spam. Okay, and how I would say even other ISP spam filters have changed over the years, like Outlook, Yahoo. Outlook is one of the toughest spam filters to inbox. Sometimes it throws a lot of false negatives, but following the best practices is always the key. For example, some spam filters like Outlook and iCloud require you to sign a dedicated PTR on your IP address. That is also very each and every spam filter has their own quirks. Sadaksha.
Yeah, I'd say spam filters are, they have been evolving very, very quickly. Like in the beginning, like couple of years back when we got the postmaster, that was like a very new thing. I think it was in 2015, 2016. So we suddenly had the reputation data, right? So you could, in the matter of 2 days, you could tell where your domain is trending, how where it's going, right?
Right.
And then a couple of months back, I mean, Yahoo was, I mean, personally, Yahoo is somewhere where it was easy to spam. Like my Yahoo mailbox used to be flooded with all sorts of spam. So I'd actually moved out of using my Yahoo mailbox, and I'd only open it once every few weeks or every few months to just clean it up, right? A few months back, I opened my Yahoo mailbox, and lo and behold, there were just Uber receipts. That was a very, very pleasant surprise. So that
Right.
tells you how they are evolving, right? How ISP filters are working on changing their algorithms, how they are working actively to prevent spam. So as
Right.
such, we should also, as a marketers, we should also evolve our strategy. We should also change and see, optimize and evolve the same way. And some few things you need to monitor is, again, like I said, history is important. Like, yeah, Hotmail, Microsoft is one of the toughest to inbox. If you have irregular sending patterns, they would not just put your emails in spam, they'd actually outright block you. I mean, I have a few customers who basically segment based on their regions, right? So, which is a good practice. They are actually segmenting and sending very select content, but they get blocked very frequently because Microsoft sees very irregular pattern because based on each region. But in those cases, because they are actually sending legitimate emails when you raise a support request, they get remediated. But at the same time, if you have bad pattern for no good reason, then that's not going to get fixed anyway. At Gmail, you can literally see. I've at many cases I've literally seen a customer accidentally blasted a high volume. So the inbox placement started off with 100% like it had been in whatever last six or so months. And then as the volume kept on going, like based on the throttle rates as it kept on going, then it slowly dipped from 100 to 80, from 80 to 70 to 60 to 30%. You can literally, I wouldn't say live, but you can at real time see how your inbox placement is dropping at Gmail. And same with Yahoo. Yahoo has recently changed its filter and made it much stricter. And though I'd have to say it's very commendable that when they have tightened up their security, the actual customers, the actual CRM senders aren't really affected with that. So I think, which is great. And Yahoo has a slightly lower acceptance rate compared to Gmail. So that's just the frequency, the limits at which you are sending at Gmail will not be accepted at Yahoo. At the same time, the number of IPs we have used to send Gmail volume, that those number of IPs might not suffice when you are targeting the same amount of, the higher amount of Yahoo volume. So those are also some factors you need to really keep in mind.
In fact, if you're monitoring your SMTP servers, please ensure you're not opening more than 20 connections, SMTP connections at the same time with Yahoo. Otherwise, it throws an error. So that's a takeaway. I think, Mansi, the audience is getting impatient. We have a couple of questions over here.
Let's
Let's
take the
start.
one from
Yeah,
Vinny first. Yeah.
yeah. Sadaksha, you go first.
Okay. Okay. Let's see the questions. Welcome series is getting 20% bounce rates. If your okay, if your welcome series is getting 20% bounce rate, that means there's something absolutely wrong with how people are signing up. Like on your welcome pay, like on your sign up page, you have to have some requirements. Even if you don't have confirmed opt in, like or double opt in, you should at least have captcha in place, right? 20%
Right,
bounce rate is like really really high. Well, higher bounce rate in welcome series is expected, at least in the first campaign it's expected, but 20% is very high. You should either have confirmed opt-in in place, or you should at the very least have captcha in place
right.
to prevent false
Captcha is a
positives.
very good idea, and also you can have a checkbox asking the users to check if they want marketing emails, because at times people given wrong email addresses, typos, in the fear of being bombarded by marketing emails. So that is also one aspect to look at.
Yeah, and that's also a GDPR requirement if you
Yep.
are based in Europe.
Yep.
Let's take up the next question from Mohit here. Advice for companies expanding to Indian market. What's an ideal open CDR?
Mm. You can actually check the benchmark report. I think
Yeah,
Mansi has posted it somewhere.
we have
Where
just shared it
yeah,
on the chat box.
yes.
Yeah.
So we have a benchmark report, which basically is, for each region and each vertical, and for the level of personalization you have used. There's a benchmark report by Moongate. You can check it out. It's on the chat box.
Sadaksha, Mansi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I think Sadaksha is stuck there. Surya, do you want to add here
Okay,
anything?
should we go to the next question?
No, absolutely. I would also refer the benchmark report. But one thing to note is, as you have rightly asked, in India, the benchmarks are different. Industry wise, the benchmarks are different. It depends on which industry you are from, what data set you are targeting, and obviously, what kind of infrastructure you are maintaining. But when it comes to benchmarks, do refer to the benchmark report by 𝐬𝐿.
Yes, I've put the benchmark report in the chat, and I'll put it again once we end this chat. Great. So I think we are almost at the end of this chat here. Let's see if anyone has any more questions. Please feel free. We have 1 more minute. We can take up 1 or 2 questions max. But yeah, please feel free. Or I think we can just wait for 2 minutes. Surya, Sadiksha, do you have anything like a parting note or anything to add here for the audience?
Parting note would be, there is no one
Uh,
size fits all kind of solution. Always treat each and every customer as a separate detective case that you're solving, as if you are in a crime thriller and you are a cop. Always keep that in mind. Sadaksha, parting notes from you.
I absolutely agree with you. In fact, the reason I like my job so much is because every case, every customer, every client, every issue, they are so different. I mean, you might have reputation issue for two customers at the same vertical, but their underlying problem and how you solve them can be entirely different, right? So it's quite exciting. You're always learning new things, and deliverability, everything can affect it. Though I would say one thing that works for everybody is follow the best practices. Hacks and tricks, they work for a short time. If you have issues, okay, change the IP, right? That might work for a day or two, or they might even work for a week or so. But what about after that? As a brand, loyalty is important. Building trust with your end users is important. So I would say always follow the best practices, listen to your users' needs, look at the
Hacks are hacks are for
customer
spammers
insights.
and sorry, Sadak.
And yeah,
Hacks,
go
hacks
ahead,
are
go
for
ahead.
spammers and fixes are for marketeers. Always remember that.
Awesome.
And the other thing is, with all the new laws, every country is strengthening their privacy policies, and spam filters getting all stricter. They're not, they're not. I mean, obviously they pose an issue if when you have to change things based on that, but they're not affecting you as a marketer. Who you really want to target, where your conversion comes from, is the interested users. The privacy policy is just ensuring that you actually target to just them and not bombard the people who don't want those emails, right? So as such, you should look at them as, oh, they're basically making you follow the best guidelines. So I'd say just follow the best practices.
Absolutely.
Cool. Let's wrap up here. And it was great talking to both of you. We had a lot of insights to take away. We'll also share the recording with everyone, and so that they can use that and learn and keep optimizing their deliverability through this video. Thank you guys. Thank you for joining us today. See you soon next time. Bye bye.
Yeah, it was great talking
Bye.
to you. Bye bye.
Bye.